by pure coincidence. On April 28, 1997, Zephany Nurse was born, and she was placed in a nearby crib while her mother Celeste slept, but when Celeste awoke, her daughter was missing. Police searched the hospital, but nothing of note was found. In fact, no progress was made in the case for nearly 2 decades. The girls quickly struck up a close friendship, and many people commented on their resemblance to one another. So much so that when Cassidy introduced Mache to her mom Celeste, she instantly contacted the police.
What's up YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all the supporters who's coming back to the channel, watching the videos entirely, man. Commenting down below. I really appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
This woman was left blind after her ex threw acid on her face, but then she forgave him and then married him. This is the story of Burfine Ozac. She was 18 years old when her ex-boyfriend threw acid on her face after she ended their relationship. Kasim Ozan had threatened Burfine multiple times before, but on January 2019, he waited until she left her house and he attacked her. She suffered severe burns, permanent disfigurement, as you can see in these photos, and she lost her vision in one eye. Kasim was arrested and was sentenced to 13 years and 6 months in prison, and Burfine initially testified against him, but things quickly changed. Absolutely no one expected this, but while Kasim was in prison, he wrote letters to Burfine. He apologized and expressed his love for her, and that's when eventually Burfine withdrew her complaint and stated that she still loved him and that she forgave him. Then in 2021, Kasim was released from prison early, and a year later, Burfine and Kasim got married. And of course, people were so upset and even concerned that this woman was being manipulated, and others just thought that she settled with this man because no one else would love her because of how she looked. Her own family also tried to stop her from marrying this evil man, but she insisted, and apparently they cut ties with her.
Shilia.
Could you guys forgive a person like that? Poured acid on your face and we got married to them? That's one of the wildest things I've heard yet, watching these clips together with you guys, seekers.
Ahmed was murdered by her parents because she was becoming too westernized. Let's talk about it. Now, Shilia actually was brought up in the UK but had Pakistani roots, and one day her family says, "We're taking you to Pakistan to get an arranged marriage with your cousin." She was terrified, and her dad drugged her with sleeping pills and put her on the flight anyways. When she woke up, she was so scared that she attempted to leave, and this would result in her spending the next 2 months in the hospital before returning to the UK. Her parents then plotted an honor killing where they shoved a plastic bag into her mouth to suffocate her in front of her siblings, and they told the siblings, "If you tell anyone about this, you will be killed next." Then they dumped her body into a river and reported to the police that she had ran away. 5 months later, the police discover the body and realize it's her. The parents play dumb, and it's not until her little sister goes and tells the police what the parents had done. They got sentenced to 25 years without parole.
Death Note was banned in Russia and China? That's the only anime I know off that list.
I passed away trying to put a TV in my stomach.
My name is Poe. I am one of the Teletubbies. Before all the sunshine and happiness, there was darkness and loneliness. We were 4 children, stuck living in a Bulgarian mental facility they called La La Land, where psychotic children were secretly being experimented on. They isolated the 4 of us into our own dark rooms.
Lala, the yellow Teletubby, was a child with a facial disfigurement, making her face stuck in a smile. Dipsy, the green tabby, was a malnourished child that was constantly sick.
Tinky Winky, the purple tabby, was a deaf child who got tied to a fence and suffered frostbite. And me, Poe, I fell into a fire when I was young.
Our only source of comfort in our facility was the little television in our rooms.
But as part of an experiment, they told us they were going to take them away. We couldn't bear losing them, so we came up with the idea to try and hide them in our stomach. But they were too big to swallow, so we attempted to cut a pathway for them in our stomach and put the television inside,
which costed us our life.
One of the biggest mysteries in history has finally been solved. Alright, firstly, in 1915, explorer Ernest Shackleton and his crew set off for a voyage to explore Antarctica. However, before they could make it to Antarctica, the ship they were on, known as the Endurance, got trapped and crushed by the ice. Now, with no other options left, all of the members on board had to navigate a lifeboat hundreds of miles to safety. This journey to safety, all of the crew survived many storms, even one being a hurricane, until they got onto a rescue boat. Even though they failed to get to Antarctica, this became a famous story because they didn't let a setback crush their spirit. But for over a century, the biggest mystery was, where did the ship end up? And believe it or not, but in 2022, the ship was actually discovered and they were so close to where they wanted to be. It was found 2 miles underwater, and because of the frigid temperatures, it was actually pretty well preserved.
It was so close, they were like right there.
Terrible crimes that were solved by pure coincidence. On April 28, 1997, Zephany Nurse was born, and she was placed in a nearby crib while her mother Celeste slept, but when Celeste awoke, her daughter was missing. Police searched the hospital, but nothing of note was found. In fact, no progress was made in the case for nearly 2 decades. However, when Celeste's next oldest daughter Cassidy started classes at a new school in 2014, she met Michelle Solomon. The girls quickly struck up a close friendship, and many people commented on the resemblance to one another. So much so that when Cassidy introduced Michelle to her mom Celeste, she instantly contacted the police. When Michelle's alleged parents couldn't provide proof of her birth, a DNA test was conducted and it was confirmed that Michelle was actually Zephany Nurse, Celeste's missing daughter. The kidnapper LaVonna Solomon was later convicted in the abduction case and sentenced to 10 years in prison.
So she met like her sister at school? And they became best friends.
Over the dolls? Are you connected in any other way to other haunted dolls?
Everybody against you. Me and the devil. Walking side by side.
This is what they meant when they said, "Don't talk to strangers." In the early 1900s, a 10-year-old boy was playing in the woods when a tall man appeared and asked if he wanted to come back to his cabin for dinner. Totally caught off guard, the boy reluctantly agrees and begins walking. When they get to the cabin, the boy is relieved when he sees Paul, a family friend, sitting on the porch, so the boy happily goes inside. After they eat, the boy says thank you to the strange tall man, says bye to Paul, and then he leaves. He had only walked a few steps when he sees his family, along with Paul, running up the path towards him, frantically asking if he was okay. Confused, the boy says, "I'm just fine," and he looks at Paul and he's like, "Why didn't you tell them I was with you at the cabin?" And he points over his shoulder. Paul glances over the boy's shoulder and then narrows his eyes and says, "You were kidnapped by a cult 3 days ago. No one's seen you." Terrified, the boy turns around to look at the cabin he just came from, and it's gone. All he sees is a dark forest that stretches for miles.
So he was gone for 3 days and he didn't even know? They had to do something to him, right?
Let's be financially responsible! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning!
Why? If you haven't got it just yet, try listening to this again and it should click.
I ain't watching any of those
The
videos.
reason why. Hit the plus for part 2.
If I ever go missing, I hope these are the first people to come looking for me. The Midnight Order was formed by Dr. Sasha Reed, who's established one of the largest databases in the world on serial killers. She's
just now surfaced. Johnson was pulled over in July of 2021 for a routine traffic stop. It was during that time that authorities said they smelled the unmistakable odor of decomposition. In addition to that, the officer says that they saw maggots in a bag. Eventually, the suspect removed a blanket from a suitcase-like object and revealed her 7-year-old niece deceased. After that, authorities said they then found the remains of a second child in a bag. They were then identified as her 5- and 7-year-old niece and nephew. The suspect claimed that she was taking care of them for her mother because the mother could not. However, after further investigation, it turns out that the mother tried to pick up her children, but the suspect never returned with them. Authorities said that the 7-year-old niece had been deceased for over a year. The suspect said that they were staying at a motel in May of 2020. It was there that she struck the girl and made her fall and hit her head. She then stated she kept the 7-year-old in the car for months. She claims her 5-year-old nephew sustained an injury 2 months prior to the traffic stop and never woke up. She then put him in a bag next to his sister. On February 10th of this year, she was sentenced to 50 years in prison. To stay up to date on this case, make sure you click the playlist below. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
The body cam footage of this woman's arrest has gone viral right now, and if you haven't seen it, just stay tuned. Nicole Johnson was sentenced to 50 years in prison for the unaliving of her nephew and her niece. According to reports, she gained custody of the kids in 2019 due to her sister not being able to take care of them at the time. Now the children, Jocelyn and Larry, moved from Dayton, Ohio, all the way to Maryland. Her sister assumed that her kids were in good hands, and she later tried to connect with her kids, but her sister would never let her. Each time she would make an excuse saying the kids are asleep, and then at some point she just stopped answering the phone. However, in 2021, she was stopped for a traffic violation for driving over the speed limit. The cop then ran her plates and said that her plates were not found and that she needed to sit down, take her stuff out the car, and wait for the tow truck. It was at that point the police officers noticed a foul stench and made her open all of her suitcases and luggages. It was there that they saw a little girl who was unalived and decomposing. According to Nicole, she beat her until she was unalived, and she passed away in 2020. Now, the little boy Larry, he passed away months before the traffic stop, so she just said that he fell asleep and never woke up. Although the coroner found a big gash on his leg, she would not give any more information. How could an aunt be so cruel and drive around with these little babies' bodies and not even seek help? The police officer who did find the kids' bodies was crying and trying to gain composure, but he couldn't. Many of them were praying at the scene, but what do you all think about the story? Let me know in the comment section below.
This killer accidentally admitted to his crimes by accident when he forgot he was wearing a microphone while taking part in a documentary. This is how a true crime documentary exposed a killer. In 1971, Robert Durst met Kathleen McCormack and they got married. At the time of her disappearance in 1982, Kathleen had nearly graduated college. She was last seen by a witness at a dinner party where she appeared to be upset. She got a call from Robert and left. Robert admitted to having argued with Kathleen that night, but he said he put her on a train to New York and then never saw her again. Her friend called police to report her missing. Interestingly, Kathleen had been treated at a medical centre for facial bruises weeks prior to this and told the friend that Robert had done it. Robert had actually been dating someone else for some time prior to this and had been living separately to Kathleen. When her family broke into her cottage to try and find out where she was, they found the place had been trashed and her possessions put in the bin. Kathleen's family always believed that Robert was involved in her disappearance. In 2000, Susan Berman, a friend of Robert's, was found murdered. Now, she'd actually provided Robert with an alibi for Kathleen's disappearance. Now, pay really close attention to this next bit. Days after she was killed, a letter addressed to the Beverly Hills Police Department contained Susan's address and the word cadaver on it. On the envelope, Beverly was misspelled. Robert admitted in 2005 that Susan had called him shortly before her death to say that the police wanted to question her about Kathleen going missing. It's believed that Robert killed Susan to keep her quiet. In 2001, Robert's neighbour's body parts were found floating in Galveston Bay. Robert's elderly neighbour, Morris Black, had been killed and Robert was arrested. He was actually released on bail and fled and was found about a month later in Pennsylvania. He was found with $37,000 cash, 2 weapons, and interestingly, Morris Black's driving licence. In court, Robert claimed he was acting in self-defence. He said he'd accidentally shot Morris and dismembered his body. Due to lack of forensics, he only got 5 years in jail. This is where things get really crazy. HBO was filming a documentary called The Jinx. During production, Susan's stepson found a letter written by Robert. This contained the same spelling error in the word Beverly as the anonymous letter to police. This implicated Robert in the murder. Now, while filming the documentary, Robert needed the toilet. He forgot that he had a microphone still attached to him. He was recorded talking to himself. He said, "There it is, you're caught. You're right, of course, but you can't imagine. Arrest him." And then he said, What a disaster. He was right. I was wrong. And finally he said, I'm having difficulty with the question. What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course.
You got caught in 4K, man. A part of the documentary? And he still had the mic on?
This reality TV star is charged with murdering, dismembering, and setting her ex on fire. And police want your help because his head is still missing. Tamika Chesler is a 34-year-old reality TV star who shot to fame over a decade ago on the Australian version of Beauty and the Geek. It's essentially a reality TV show where they kind of pair up very beautiful women with very intelligent guys and they make them do challenges. She then went on to do a lot of like glamour modeling work. In the show, she honestly seemed like a normal, nice, sweet girl, but what she's accused of is absolutely horrific. She had been living with her partner Julian Story in Port Lincoln. He was 39 years old and neighbours described him as kind to everyone. This all came to light on the 19th of June, just after 3 p.m, when a small fire could be seen coming from her home. Curious, a neighbour popped round to investigate and found honestly the most horrifying scene you could ever imagine. Julian's badly burned, disfigured remains were in full view, lay in the apartment. He was missing his head. Tamika was also found just outside of the property in the garden in a, quote, catatonic, unresponsive state. This poor neighbour immediately called police, obviously, and Tamika was arrested. They then obviously had to piece together exactly what had happened here. They scoured CCTV from the local area and found haunting images of Tamika wearing a black cloak, walking around with her dogs between the 17th and the 19th of June. She could be seen carrying a plastic bag, but it wasn't clear exactly what was in that bag. Police alleged that she killed Julian at their home and then decapitated him and set him on fire. Although searches have taken place, like I said, the police are still looking for his head, which is yet to be found. Tamika is charged with murder, destruction or disposal of human remains to obstruct justice, and assaulting a police or emergency worker, so I'm assuming she kicked off when she was arrested. She is currently being held in a psychiatric facility.
He was found stuck inside of a chimney after missing for 7 years. 18-year-old Joshua Maddox lived in Woodland Park, Colorado, and had a love for nature. He had a free spirit, carefree attitude, and it was pretty normal for him to just get out and go for a walk. On May 8th of 2008, Joshua told his sister Kate that he was going to go outside for a walk. She didn't think much of it because this is something that he would always do, but later that day, his family noticed that he never came back home. They started to worry because this was out of the ordinary for Joshua. His parents waited several days before contacting the police, and on May 15th, his father is the one who called and reported him as missing. The search for Joshua went on for months, including authorities, family members, and friends searching around the area. But as time went on, people started losing hope of finding Joshua. Joshua's sister Kate hoped that her brother just left town, started a new life, and that nothing had happened to him. At this time, many were speculating that maybe he ran away due to not being able to deal with his brother's death just 2 years prior. His family didn't want to believe that Joshua was a runaway, so they listed him as missing. 7 years later, in 2015, a man named Chuck Murphy was demolishing his old wood cabin so he could make room for a property development. The cabin had not been used for years, it smelled rotten, and while they were trying to demolish it, inside of the chimney they found a mummified body. Yes, this body belonged to Joshua Maddox. He was found cramped into a fetal position with his legs above his head. And the sad part is, he was only 1 mile away from his home. A coroner believed that Joshua was climbing down the chimney to get inside of that cabin when he got stuck. His death was ruled as an accidental death, but Chuck, the owner of the cabin, said that this was impossible. He had installed a heavy wire gate across the chimney so that raccoons and other stuff wouldn't be able to get inside. The case was opened up again and they were trying to figure out if foul play was involved. A major clue that wasn't discussed as much is that Joshua was found only wearing a thermal t-shirt. Inside of the cabin lay the rest of his clothes, including his shoes and socks, so it didn't make sense that he was climbing down the chimney if he was already inside the cabin. Joshua's death was once again disclosed as an accident, but Chuck was convinced it was no accident. There was also a main suspect who saw Joshua the last time he was alive, but since 7 years passed by, it was hard to get information from him. To this day, Joshua's death remains unsolved.
Man, one day you just go out for a walk and you just disappear. The world is a scary place, man.
Through the window, by the window, that's where all
I don't know why she was screaming at us. We ain't do nothing to her.
A horrific scene. Zoraida and Alberto and their 2 young sons, who were only 10 and 7 years old, as well as their 3 dogs, they were all brutally murdered. Who would want this entire family gone? Zoraida and her family's death was part of a complicated and disturbing plot involving Zoraida's affair with a man named Nathaniel Huey Jr. But here's the thing. Nathaniel wasn't the only person involved in this disturbing and evil plot. Zoraida and Nathaniel met at work. They knew each other for about a year and started an affair in May 2023. Zoraida was married to her husband Alberto. They had 2 kids. Nathaniel, on the other hand, was in a 10+ year relationship with a woman named Ermelinda Palomo. For some time, they thought that no one knew about their affair, but they were wrong. At some point during their affair, Nathaniel's fiancée, Ermelinda, found out about what was going on, but instead of her completely losing it and confronting him, she kept it a secret. But she would come up with this crazy and disturbing plot to get revenge. And I'm not talking about revenge against Nathaniel necessarily. She targeted Zoraida and her family. Ermelinda began creating various social media accounts and pretended to be someone from the Mexican cartel. I know, this is crazy, psychotic, and it's really difficult to believe, but this is just what was going on.
How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 33% of people have astigmatism, and this is when the lens inside your eye has mismatched curves. Instead of having one curved like a ball, it's shaped more like an egg. And they're also usually the reason that lights might look blurry or have a halo or a ring or a fuzz to them. 83.7% of people can roll their tongue, but only 14.7% of people can make a clover with their tongue. Only 10% of people have something called Darwin's tubercle, and it's this little bump right here on the side of your ear. And it's believed that people who have this are better at sensing voice tonality. About 20% of people are double jointed. This is thought to be genetic and due to a variation in collagen of your connective tissue. Only about 10% of people have a birthmark. These birthmarks are usually oval in shape and usually come in a coffee-like color. And in French, this type of birthmark translates to coffee with milk. Only 1% of people have a double eyelash row. And while this might look like something you might be jealous of, this actually can cause a lot of problems.
An Olympic athlete has just died after she was doused in petrol and then set on fire. I'm True Crime Caitlin, and this is the murder of Rebecca Cheptegei. Rebecca was a wife and mother of 2 living in Kenya. She was a Ugandan Olympian athlete. She actually just competed in the Paris 2024 Olympics as a marathon runner, where she came 44th out of almost 100. Wow. She was a very dedicated athlete. On Sunday the 1st of September, Rebecca and her 2 children went to church, arriving back at their home at around about 2 p.m. when Rebecca was met with an acquaintance. This allegedly being a man named Dixon. Reports have stated that Dixon is either Rebecca's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. However, her father Joseph refutes this. He has said that Rebecca and Dixon were just friends and that Rebecca's husband lives in Uganda. Rebecca and Dixon began to argue outside of Rebecca's home so loud that the neighbours could hear. Then, using a 5-litre jerry can filled with petrol which he had bought earlier, Dixon would douse Rebecca in the petrol before setting her on fire. Rebecca would be rushed to the intensive care hospital, where she had suffered 75% burns all across her body, and the doctors did as much as they can to try and stabilise her and save her. However, sadly today, the 5th of September, Rebecca's organs failed and she succumbed to her injuries, dying in the hospital. If you see this man...
A lot of people, man, just want to get into these fights, these arguments, and then do something they're going to regret for the rest of their life. I never got that part, man. Just walk away. It's not worth it.
On the Appalachian Trail, that is your sign to run. This is Stephen Roy Carter. He was a man that lived in a cave along the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania, and he was known for fixating on solo female travelers. And to show you how much of a threat he was, let me tell you a story. This is coming from a deep dive episode I just did on some of the scariest Appalachian Trail stories. But in 1981, a woman named Rebecca and her girlfriend Claudia were hiking in the Appalachian Trail near where Stephen lived in his cave. Their first interaction with Stephen was actually when Rebecca went to the bathroom near one of the trail stops and actually saw Stephen inside the bathroom waiting for her, and he was completely naked. She was able to run away from that situation, but what she didn't know was as they were leaving that camp area, Stephen was stalking her and her girlfriend. Eventually, the two women found a secluded area along the trail to set up camp and hang out with each other, but what they didn't know was Stephen was watching them from the forest, and all of a sudden, he opened fire on them. Rebecca was tragically killed by Stephen, but Claudia was able to survive and run and get help. Eventually, Stephen was brought to court for this crime, and he said that the reason he did it was because he knew that the women were in a relationship, and that enraged him so much that he felt this overwhelming urge to kill. He is currently serving a life sentence, but this story is still one of the scariest things that's ever happened on the Appalachian Trail. And if you want to hear more of those stories, make sure you check out this episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Where we at? Middle of the night raining? Pitch black? Come meet me.
This is why you should always trust your gut. In the early 1970s, a college student decided to hitchhike his way home after class. A car pulls up, a man offers him a ride, and he climbs in. As soon as the car started moving, the student felt totally uneasy, like something was wrong but he couldn't quite place it. Without saying anything, he waited till the next time they slowed down and he flung the door open and ran away. 2 years later, he's flicking through TV channels when he comes across this special interview with a death row inmate. And it's just the audio recording, so he hears the interviewer ask the inmate, "Why did you remove all the door handles inside of your car?" The man just goes, "Well, the first time I tried to kill someone, I picked up a college hitchhiker who got smart at some point and jumped out of my car. So, lesson learned, remove all the door handles." When they showed his picture, the student knew immediately that he was supposed to be the first victim of John Wayne Gacy, aka the Killer Clown, who had killed over 30 men and boys in his clown room and stuffed them into his basement.
Have you guys heard of this recent case of this stepmother who starved this 4-year-old child to the point where he passed away? If you guys want to skip this short video and watch the full story with all the details, make sure to go on my YouTube channel. I have the video there. 4-year-old Benjamin Cervera, also known as Benji, was a sweet, playful little boy who was living with his mother for the first 2.5 years of his life until his father gained full custody. A year later, Benji's father, Brandon Cervera, met this woman named Miranda Caceres. Miranda was a single mom and had a 3-year-old son from a previous relationship, but despite this, her relationship with Brandon moved really fast and she moved into his apartment only a few weeks after they met. Not long after she moved in, things got very toxic at home and a lot of the anger was put on little Benji. It was said that she would starve him, and when investigators came and looked inside the house, they saw locks on the kitchen cabinets and on the fridge. They also had cameras all over the house, especially inside the kitchen, to monitor Benji and make sure that he wasn't taking any food.
Eventually, it would get harder for him to do so as more locks were put on cabinets and the refrigerator.
Aside from that, Benji was also being hurt by Miranda and his father, apparently, and there are videos and photos of investigators going inside the home and seeing Benji with black eyes and bruises all over his body. Now, Benji's father also contributed to what was going on in the house. There's text messages between him and Miranda where he told Miranda to not feed Benji dinner. He was also aware of all the bruises and injuries on Benji's body, and according to Miranda, he was the one creating those bruises. There were also videos found on Miranda's phone of Benji crying and begging for food, and these videos were sent between Miranda and Brandon. There is so much evidence in this case, but Miranda was the only one who was convicted, and she was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and Benji's father was able to walk free. I was not expecting that at all, but again, if you guys want to watch the full thing with the details and the videos, make sure to head over to my YouTube channel.
How rare is your body? Let's find out. Only 4% of people never get headaches. The chemical activity in your brain, the blood vessels surrounding your skull, or the muscles around your head and neck all can play a role in headaches. And some people may carry genes that make them more likely to develop headaches. About 60% of people have different sized feet, and the left foot is usually the larger one. And this is because for most people, the right side of their body is dominant. Therefore, it's easier to maintain their balance while walking forward with their left foot, relying on their right foot to keep them steady. Therefore, they step forward a little more carefully with their right foot. As a result, the left foot is exercised more and usually grows stronger and might achieve a bigger size. About 1% of people have had lice. Lice are wingless insects that pretty much just feed and live on the human scalp and drink human blood. And humans are the only known host of this specific parasite. About 7.5% of people have an underbite, and this is when your lower teeth extend farther than your upper teeth, and usually this is caused by a misaligned jaw.
Animals that are bigger than you think.
Wow.
Sea turtles. This is how big they actually are.
Damn, what the heck? That has to be a mega one.
Wolves. This is the actual size of a wolf.
Cap. What the hell?
Today we're going to be talking about the urban legend of Hug and Molly from Abbeville, Alabama. Also, I'm starting a new series about urban legends by state, and we're starting with Alabama because it's the first one in alphabetical order. She's a ghostly presence that is 7 feet tall, and she wears like this black cloak, and she haunts the town at night, and she apparently grabs kids that are being bad, and she screams in their ear at the top of her lungs, which can be deafening. Some people think that she was a mother who lost her children. Some people think that she was a school teacher back when she was alive. I like the school teacher theory, honestly, because like I was a substitute for years, and I would also do this in the afterlife. Also, I love that it's so southern that it's actually Hug and Molly. Like, as a Texan, okay, I appreciate the southern drawl on that. It looks like she even has her own Pokemon card. But she's so entwined with the town of Abbeville that she's even on the sign for when you enter the town. This would be a great place to take the kiddos. This is from the Hug and Molly movie. Why does it kind of look like me at the movie theater when I'm pissed off that they run out of Twizzlers? But like 7 feet tall, hello, mommy. She's an icon. She is the moment. We love her. How do you feel about Miss Molly?
This is the unsettling evidence that was found after a woman vanished off a cruise ship. It was December 2004, and Annette Mizner was 37 years old. The mother from Wisconsin had actually won a 9-day cruise to the Mexican Riviera, so she was obviously thrilled. She boarded the ship with her parents and her 17-year-old daughter Danielle. However, on the 4th of the month, things turned from a dream to a nightmare. Annette left her room to meet up with her parents as planned at 10 p.m. to go to bingo. Worryingly though, she never showed up. Her dad was concerned and heard rumours that she'd been spotted around 7:30 at the casino. He went to try and find her but had no luck. He then heard over the intercom that a bag had been found. It turned out to be Annette's bag, and it was recovered from the railings on a lower deck of the ship at around 10:10 p.m. Beading from her handbag was all over the floor, which indicated signs of a struggle. Then came the most worrying discovery of all. A CCTV camera had been covered with paper. It was as if somebody was deliberately trying to cover over the cameras so nothing was seen. Annette was declared missing, and a Coast Guard aircraft and Navy ship searched the area for 16 hours. Tragically, they failed to find the missing mum. Now, Annette's daughter Danielle actually claimed a strange man had been harassing her mum, and they'd reported it to staff, but nothing had been done. Annette's husband feels that she may have fallen by accident or could have been pushed overboard. Her fate remains a mystery to this day.
These two were having sex, she called out the wrong name, and he literally ripped her insides out with his bare hands. In 2015, Fidel Lopez murdered Maria Nemeth for saying the wrong name during sex. She called out her ex-husband's name instead of his. And reading about this case was like nightmare fuel. He went on to assault her with a hot curling iron, and then he...
That does not sound pleasant at all. All just because you called out the wrong name? People are dangerous individuals, man.
This is a true horrifying story of Hamdan School in Uganda. This school is an Islamic boarding school for girls. It was donated by one of the royal family members of Dubai 22 years ago. This story was submitted by Afra. An Arabic girl back in 2009 was a student at this high school. She knew that the school was haunted and that there was a graveyard right behind the school. And she heard rumors of many incidents where girls were possessed by jinns. But everything else about the school seems fine, because it's one of the most successful Islamic boarding schools in that region. But that does not deny the fact that jinns may live inside the school. Afra experienced something, and being in her 30s today, this one incident will always haunt her. Afra had a mutual friend that was a student in that same school. She was regularly possessed by one jinn. Out of all the religious students, she was one of the very few that didn't really care about the Islamic education. She always used to party, drink, hangs out with guys, and the jinn that used to possess her was surprisingly a Muslim. He was just furious that she used to disobey her family and her religion. They brought her to one of the halls in the school and they started a ruqya session. Afra was there witnessing the whole thing. After many attempts of trying to make this jinn speak, he finally responded. I am possessing this girl because she disobeys. I will not leave until she changes. They were all shocked and they proceed with the recitation. The moment they stop, just for a few seconds, the possessed girl stares at Afra. Who is this girl? Why is she very quiet? She is very pretty, very nice, but I cannot go near her. Afra froze in her place. She felt numb all around and she was not able to move a single muscle. The Imam was intrigued, so he asks the jinn, why can't you go near her? What is stopping you? It was a back and forth questioning. The jinn kept saying, I can't. Why can't you? Until it responded. There is someone in front of her with light. What does that mean? They ask. There is someone in front of her with light. I can't go near her. They couldn't interpret what this was exactly. It could have been the veil of light from the Adhkar. But regardless, Afra will never forget the demon's eyes staring deep into her soul, wanting to possess her.
Okay. Got a haunted boarding school.
Scariest urban legends from every US state. This shows some of the most popular urban legends from every single state across the USA. And as you've probably guessed, in this series we're going through all of them. From the most normal ones to the really dark, disturbing ones. So let's kick off part 2. Oh, this is creepy. So the legend goes, a long time ago in New York, in a children's hospital. Children would be in this hospital and at night obviously they'd basically just be left alone. The legend was about someone called Cropsy. Cropsy has a hook for a hand and lurks around at night in the children's hospital. He stalked and unalived these people who he found walking in the corridors at night. Apparently everybody who goes to camp in upstate New York knows about this legend, so let me know if that's true. This is where things get even more disturbing. A documentary was posted which basically confirmed this was real. Convicted killer and kidnapper Andrew Rand. That's him there in the middle, and it was real. A follow button, it's going to get crazy, and let me know which state you're from.
Cropsy.
The bedroom scene from Terrifier 2 is not that bad. That's what all of you keep saying. Art the Clown literally chases someone down into their bedroom, carves them up, and then pours salt all over them while they're still alive. And genuinely enjoys it. That scene is insane. I guess if we're talking about insane unalivings, we have to talk about the scene where someone gets sucked into their bed in Nightmare on Elm Street. My boy just falls asleep, he just wants to go to bed. And then his room gets absolutely painted. We then have to talk about the chainsaw scene from American Psycho. My boy throws the chainsaw down the stairs, unaliving someone in half. American Psycho's definitely got some of the craziest premises of any movie. We then of course have to throw in Hereditary if we're talking about crazy unalivings in movies. Granted, it's not gory. But if you've seen the movie, you know what happens. Everything is fine, everyone's having a good time. And then bam, a telephone pole comes out of nowhere. Straight cooked. And then finally, probably one of the saddest, most realist unalivings is the ending of The Mist. Now granted, this is not my favorite horror movie ever, but the ending is crazy. It's the end of the world. They run to their car. It's my boy and his whole family. What does he do? He tries to save them. By, of course, unaliving them because he doesn't want them to reap the same fate as everybody else. And then he gets saved. That right there is a massive tear-up moment. But those are some movies that do have insane unalivings, just like the bedroom scene.
They sound crazy, man. They coming out with a Terrifier 4, right? Finish it off. Who was that walking towards him?
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Episode 21. Number 1. The black box. In every aircraft, there is something known as a black box, and before every plane crash, the black box stores recordings of passengers screaming before they die. The most common word that black boxes recorded before a crash is the word mama. Number 2. Bodies are sometimes found in hotel beds. Guests from different countries from around the world have reported foul smells in their bedrooms, only to discover a corpse stuffed inside the mattress after sleeping on it for days. Number 3. People who wake up during surgery. Anesthetic awareness. It is a medical term known for when patients wake up mid-surgery and they feel everything, including the pain. But because of the anesthesia, they are unable to move nor speak. Number 4. There are hundreds of active serial killers walking free right now. The FBI estimates that at least 2,000 active serial killers are currently uncaught around the world. Number 5. There's a 1 in 3 chance your house has hidden mold that can affect your brain. Long-term exposure has been linked to hallucinations, memory loss, and paranoia, and most people never find out about the mold until it's too late. Number 6. Sometimes bodies aren't buried, they're stored and forgotten. In some hospital morgues, unclaimed bodies are stacked in freezers for years until they're either cremated without a name or sold for research. Number 7. There are people who fake being dead and live among corpses. They are known as necrosadists. They sneak into morgues or graveyards at night, not to harm, but to feel close to the dead. Number 8. Cameras sometimes capture things the eye can't see.
True.
Paranormal investigators have caught unexplained figures, shadows, and even faces in rooms that were completely empty. Some claim it's the only time jinns make themselves visible. If you want more, like and follow for episode 22.
This guy, he really just is the worst. He followed her into a school bathroom, but she never walked back out. 21-year-old Lily James was working late at St. Andrew's Cathedral School in Sydney, Australia, where she was a water polo coach. On October 25th, 2023, Lily went with her athletes to a water polo session and returned to the school at around 7 p.m. Lily herself had a water polo game later that same night, so she quickly grabbed her swimsuit and she made her way to the gym's bathroom so she could change. At that time, she had just ended a very casual 5-week relationship with one of her coworkers. It wasn't supposed to be serious, and she was clear from the start that she just wanted something casual and something light. But the colleague that she had been seeing, 23-year-old Paul Tyson, didn't agree. After Lily broke up with him, Paul started acting possessive, obsessive, and behind the scenes, he was stalking her. From the outside, Paul seemed like a regular guy, athletic, friendly, educated. But this actually wasn't the first time that he had shown red flags. A former girlfriend said that he actually stalked her, hacked her social accounts, and even flew across the world to confront her when she tried to break up with him. Lily had no idea about any of this, and when she ended things, he spiraled. In the days following the breakup, Paul rented cars just to drive to her house, take pictures of her home and of her family's cars, and just watch her. He would track her Snapchat location and watched her from outside without her ever knowing. He also went to a hardware store and bought duct tape and a hammer. On October 25th, Paul showed up at St. Andrews hours before Lily was supposed to return to the school. He tampered with the gym's bathroom doors and placed a cleaning in progress sign in front of a stall to trap Lily in another specific stall. He even rehearsed how he would ambush her, which was captured on the school's CCTV footage. At 7:12 p.m., Lily walked towards the bathroom to change into her swimsuit for her water polo game. Paul waited, and then he followed. He stood outside the stall she was in. Then he pulled the hammer from his backpack and forced the door open. What happened next was just brutal. She tried to fight back, but the injuries were just too much. After this attack, he actually took her phone and texted her dad, pretending to be her. He messaged her father asking him to not call, to not ask any questions, but to just come to the school and pick her up. Her father asked if she was okay, and the response back was, "Yes, just come, trouble." Paul did this because he wanted Lily's father to find her body. It's just disgusting. After that, Paul drove to a cliffside reserve. He called 000, which is like 911, and anonymously reported that a woman's body was in the school bathroom. Then he vanished. Back at the school, police found Lily in the bathroom stall. The injuries to her head and neck were just so severe, and she was almost unrecognizable. Police quickly reviewed security footage and realized who the suspect was. It was Paul. The investigation continued, and that's when they discovered all of Paul's lies. He had lied about his work, he had fake documents to stay in the country since he was originally from the Netherlands, and he also had created a fake Snapchat account to spy on Lily using another woman's name. He pretended to be someone he wasn't, but in the end, his obsession, his control, and his inability to accept rejection revealed exactly who he was. Experts say that Paul was a narcissist who saw rejection as something that needed to be punished. untouched. And because of that, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her is gone. Lily isn't only a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a coach, a dancer, a friend. She loved chocolate, she loved sweets, she loved to perform, and she made everyone around her feel seen and feel supported. Her family is just so devastated. Her mom, Peta, who is also battling cancer, says she still walks into Lily's room just to feel close to her. Her dad, Jamie, is carrying a pain and guilt that no parent should ever have to feel. And Lily's younger brother, Max, is now left without his precious sister. Lily should still be here. So should every woman who has lost her life at the hands of a jealous, obsessive, or resentful partner. Lily's parents have spoken out about how important it is to teach young men how to handle rejection with maturity, because learning that could save lives and protect women from violence like this. My heart just goes out to Lily's loved ones, and I just do pray that
Okay, this one definitely did not seem real to me, but poopin', shartin', fartin' in Hindi translates to full terms and conditions in English. To be in the global top 1% by income, you only need to earn $33,000 a year. The closest star to the sun is 4 light years away. Voyager launched 48 years ago, and it hasn't even traveled 1 light day yet. Shaq wanted to take classes in person instead of online to get his master's degree, but the university told him that they needed at least 15 students to open up a physical class. So he paid for 15 of his friends to also earn their master's degrees. Shaq is the ultimate representation of just doing all of the side quests in life. A man was wrongly jailed for 17 years until lawyers found the look-alike actual convict that had the same first name. He got $1 million in compensation for his 17 years. Is that enough?
Nah, not nearly. 17 M's.
Things from our 90s childhood kids today wouldn't understand. Cereal boxes with toys in them. Listening to the radio and getting ready to press record when your favorite song was played. Recording a TV program on a blank VHS tape. The dial-up internet, and not being able to get on the internet if someone was on the phone. Looking in your local newspaper for cinema shows or calling the automated phone line. Carrying our music around in one of these. Taking pictures and waiting a week to see them. Getting the football scores from teletext. Booking a holiday at a travel agent, finding a film to watch at Blockbuster,
classic,
circling what you wanted for Christmas in the Argos catalog, going out to play and coming home when the street lights came on.
I only know the Blockbuster and the cereal toys.
Things that only 0.01% of people can do. Touching your nose with your tongue. Yeah, I can't do it. Apparently some people can't just raise one eyebrow. I think I can do it. And apparently some people can't cross their eyes, and I'm pretty sure I just did it. Sneeze with your eyes open. Okay, that's impossible. Nobody can do that. Apparently rolling your tongue is super rare. So apparently I'm a rare person. Apparently some people can bend their hand upwards. How is that possible?
Facts that I wish I didn't know. While you're just scrolling right now, your tongue is most likely suctioned to the roof of your mouth. Memories can get passed down through genes, so that weird fear you have might be a fear that your ancestor had a reason to be afraid of. Most spiders shed an exoskeleton, so whenever you find like a dead spider, it's most likely just an empty husk and there's a slightly bigger spider somewhere nearby. In America, more kids die from gun violence than cancer, and toddlers kill twice as many Americans with guns than terrorists do.
Where we at? Late at night. Getting a bad vibe off this.
Most people believe these 3 things will save your life. They don't. Let's pretend that you're on vacation with some friends in this cabin, and you hear on the news that there's actually a killer on the loose in the woods surrounding your cabin. What do? Instinctively, you're gonna wanna ditch your friends and just start running into the woods. No shoes, no weapons, no cell phone, no sense of where you're going. But that's actually a terrible idea because the killer is in the woods. And you'd be putting yourself more in harm's way, not less. So you decide to stay put, and then you remember that your friend drove you all to the cabin in their brand new Lamborghini that was working like 5 minutes ago. So why can't you just pile into that and drive away to safety? The problem with that is anytime you're in a cabin in the woods and there's a killer on the loose around your cabin, even if it's a brand new car, it's not going to start. So don't even go out and try it. You're just sitting in the cabin doing nothing when all of a sudden you feel like someone could be watching you and you want to turn around and make sure no one is. Don't turn around, because if you do, the killer will magically appear behind you.
So you have no way out, that's what you're saying.
That TikToker named Rory Teasley was murdered the day he posted that chilling final video. So, a little bit of a backstory. Rory was known on TikTok as Too Pumped for TV. Before his tragic and unfortunate murder, Rory had amassed over 265,000 followers here on TikTok. As you can see, his videos got a lot of views. He was just posting this wholesome, positive content that he wanted to brighten people's days. So, Rory lived in Pontiac, Michigan, which is nearby Detroit. But unfortunately, on January 6, 2022, Rory's life would be ended abruptly. On that day, Rory was playing the game Overwatch with his boyfriend, DeQuinn Watkins. Now, at some point during the gameplay that evening, DeQuinn and Rory got into some sort of an argument. And DeQuinn just took this a step far and began to strangle Rory. Eventually, this ended with Rory being strangled to death on the couch in his home. And later that evening, DeQuinn called 911 and reported that his boyfriend was sleeping on the couch and wouldn't wake up. When authorities arrived at the home, they found Rory lying unconscious on the couch. When he was taken to the hospital, yes, he was pronounced dead. So this trial happened pretty quickly, and just this year, DeQuinn pled no contest to second-degree murder charges, and he was quickly sentenced to 15 to 99 years in prison. It's unclear what caused this argument over a video game to escalate into a murder, but sadly Rory died that day. And people online are still trying to preserve his memory by reposting his TikToks and sharing his story. And yeah, this is just another tragic TikTok story that obviously did not need to happen and should never happen.
Over Overwatch though, a video game.
Diddy just dodged what would have been a life sentence. Despite having over 30 witnesses testifying against him, the jury did not find him guilty on the more serious charges. Racketeering conspiracy, he was found not guilty. Sex trafficking against Cassie Ventura, he was found not guilty. Transportation to engage in prostitution with Cassie, guilty. Sex trafficking of Jane, not guilty. And lastly, transportation to engage in prostitution with Jane, he was found guilty. The jurors apparently couldn't reach an agreement on the racketeering conspiracy, which is one of the more serious crimes, and would have gave him life in prison, which I'm finding so difficult to understand because there was so much evidence just on the racketeering alone. This means that he only faces a maximum potential sentence of 20 years, but it's predicted that he might even get less than that because of his clean criminal history.
Let's be real. How much time do you guys think that Diddy's gonna be doing? It wouldn't surprise me, man. People keep saying you're gonna get less than 5 years. I don't know. This case is just crazy. I thought with all the things that they had on him that it was gonna go a different way, but you know how the justice system works. It's wonky sometimes. It goes up and down.
3 people that you won't believe exist. This Indian woman has a condition that makes her grow extra fingers and extra toes inside the womb. Altogether, this woman has 31 fingers and toes. And this person's huge jaws is actually from a medical condition. The condition is called cherubism. Doctors were shocked when this man walked into the emergency room with severe chest pain. And after some ultrasounds to see what was causing his pain, they actually found out that this man had 2 hearts.
2 hearts? What the heck?
Scientists have just made the first ever human pig. Scientists at the Salk Institute made a major breakthrough with bioengineering. They have created a part human, part pig embryo with both human and pig DNA. Although this sounds and looks terrifying, this could actually save so many of us. This is because we may now be able to harvest human tissue and organs to address the worldwide shortage of organ donors.
Nah, but mixing species? That's going down a slippery slope. I don't like that at all. Somebody can take that way too far. We've seen the movies, we know what happened.
This is the story of the worst shark attack in human history. On July 16, 1945, the USS Indianapolis was on a secret mission to bring parts and machinery to help construct the atomic bombs. These bombs, of course, would end the Second World War just a month later. The ship was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and en route to a couple of islands off the coast of Asia. And on board the ship was over 1,100 US Navy soldiers. However, on the night of the 16th, a Japanese submarine launched a torpedo which struck the USS Indianapolis. And within just 12 minutes, the entire ship was completely sunken underwater. And about 300 out of the 1,100 men on board couldn't escape the ship in time. And the other 900 or so men were stranded floating in the middle of the ocean. And within a few minutes, it became apparent to the soldiers that there were hundreds of hungry sharks right below them. Screams began to be heard coming from almost every direction in the pitch-black darkness. And hundreds of soldiers began to be picked off one by one. When it was all said and done, only 317 men survived the disaster, meaning that close to 600 men were killed by sharks that night. Which is why...
Where they at? Shark
This is
Creek or
why you
something?
should always trust your gut. In the early 1970s, a college student decided to hitchhike his way home after class. A car pulls up, a man offers him a ride, and he climbs in. As soon as the car started moving, the student felt totally uneasy, like something was wrong but he couldn't quite place it. Without saying anything, he waited till the next time they slowed down and he flung the door open and ran away. 2 years later, he's flicking through TV channels when he comes across this special interview with a death row inmate. And it's just the audio recording, so he hears the interviewer ask the inmate, "Why did you remove all the door handles inside of your car?" The man just goes, "Well, the first time I tried to kill someone, I picked up a college hitchhiker who got smart at some point and jumped out of my car. So, lesson learned, remove all the door handles." When they showed his picture, the student knew immediately that he was supposed to be the first victim of John Wayne Gacy, aka the Killer Clown, who had killed over 30 men and boys in his clown room and stuffed them into his basement.
Trust your gut, man. Always.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Episode 21. Number 1. The black box. In every aircraft, there is something known as a black box. And before every plane crash, the black box stores recordings of passengers screaming before they die. The most common word that black boxes recorded before a crash is the word mama. Number 2. Bodies are sometimes found in hotel beds. Guests from different countries from around the world have reported foul smells in their bedrooms, only to discover a corpse stuffed inside the mattress after sleeping on it for days. Number 3. People who wake up during surgery. Anesthetic awareness. It is a medical term known for when patients wake up mid-surgery and they feel everything, including the pain. But because of the anesthesia, they are unable to move nor speak. Number 4. There are hundreds of active serial killers walking free right now. The FBI estimates that at least 2,000 active serial killers are currently uncaught around the world. Number
Crazy.
5. There's a 1 in 3 chance your house has hidden mold that can affect your brain. Long-term exposure has been linked to hallucinations, memory loss, and paranoia, and most people never find out about the mold until it's too late. Number 6. Sometimes bodies aren't buried, they're stored and forgotten. In some hospital morgues, unclaimed bodies are stacked in freezers for years until they're either cremated without a name or sold for research. Number 7. There are people who fake being dead and live among corpses. They are known as necrosadists. They sneak into morgues or graveyards at night, not to harm, but to feel close to the dead. Number 8. Cameras sometimes capture things the eye can't see. Paranormal investigators have caught unexplained figures, shadows, and even faces in rooms that were completely empty. Some claim it's the only time jinns make themselves visible. If you want more, like and follow for episode 22.
You dropping some stuff, especially about the thing about
I always knew not to believe
stuff.
everything that I see on social media, but this story about this guy who manipulated thousands of women by pretending to be something he wasn't is absolutely insane. I don't know if you guys have heard about this TikToker who created content preaching about healthy relationships and teaching men how to be better partners, and he portrayed himself as being this caring and respectful man. Well, he recently murdered his ex-girlfriend. The crazy part about this story is that I actually know of a woman who was supposed to fly out from Toronto to Miami to meet this man sometime before he took his ex-girlfriend's life. Thank God she didn't go. This guy's name is Joy Chandranath. He's 29 years old, and this happened in Miami, and he stabbed his ex-girlfriend. She was 24 years old, and her name was Maria Camila Garcia Molina, in her car, and apparently her 3-year-old daughter was in the car and saw everything. Her daughter was found wandering alone on the street, and she was covered in her mother's blood, and they later found Maria's body in her car with stab wounds all over. Police arrested this man after Maria's daughter told them that her mother was with Joy and then she fell asleep. Investigators said that Maria had a restraining order against this man when he began stalking her after she ended things in November 2024. Before her death, Maria found an AirTag in her car and she caught this man hiding near her house several times. When they arrested him, he had scratches all over his face, and he also had Maria's phone and purse on him, but he said that she had gave it to him that morning. Like I said, I know of someone who met this man on a dating app on Facebook. I guess it's like Facebook dating. And she was supposed to fly out from Toronto to Miami to go meet him, but she completely cut him off before this thing happened, after another girl reached out to her to tell her that he was also talking to her at the same time. And apparently he was talking to so many women at the same time. He was charged with second-degree murder, and he's in the Miami-Dade County Jail, and he has no bond. I think it's very common for people to meet on dating apps nowadays. I mean, I've done it, but it's very important to always be aware and know that there are risks, because you don't know who this person is at the end of the day. People are so unhinged nowadays, and someone can put up this whole facade about themselves on social media or a dating app and you wouldn't even know it. And this is my own personal opinion, but I would never fly out to go meet anyone. I think the risks are a lot higher. You're going to a different country to see someone that you've never seen before. If anything, they're coming here where I feel safe and I have family.
Be careful, man. Catfishes out to get you. Like she said, man, somebody could put up a facade on the internet, but in person, that's a whole different reality.
Crazy part is, most people believe that these 3 things will actually save your life. They don't. Let's pretend you're lost in the desert and you need water, and you don't have any. So where are some places you can get water? One commonly held terrible piece of advice is to drink your own pee, because it's mostly made up of water, except there's 5% of that that's all made up of just waste from your body, and even though the urine might keep you alive a little bit longer, you'll ultimately die of kidney failure. So you don't drink your own pee. Instead, you head over to some cactus you see nearby, because you remember reading or hearing in school that you can drink the water inside of cactus. Except, unless it's one really specific kind of cactus, you'll be drinking lots of alkaloids and chemicals that will make you viciously ill, and you'll start vomiting and you'll have diarrhea and you'll die from dehydration much faster. So as you're sitting there wondering what you're going to do next, a venomous snake bites you. And so you instinctively start sucking on the bite to remove the poison, but you can't because it goes right in your bloodstream, and all you'll do is die much faster from infection.
Man, all the stuff we learned.
Here's what would happen if you did not blink for 30 days. As your eyeballs start to dry out, tiny particles will settle down on the surface and begin to scratch it. The cornea of your eye is very delicate and it will begin to feel like it's burning. Tears will then begin to flow like a waterfall, trying to wash away all the particles. As the days pass and your cornea dries out, the sharpness of your eyes will decrease. The final result may be irreversible damage that may cause you to lose your eyesight forever. Now comment the longest time you can go without blinking.
Like a minute, probably. Maybe only 30 seconds.
Medusa has a real sad story. She didn't always look like the monster we know her as. She was an innocent woman who was a victim of cruelty. She was the most beautiful woman in the world who dedicated her life to worshipping Athena in her temple. But one day as she was walking by the shore, Poseidon caught a glimpse of her and fell in love. But she rejected his advances and tried to continue her life worshipping Athena at her temple. But within the temple of Athena, Poseidon forced himself onto Medusa. And Athena, who was already quite jealous of Medusa's beauty, basically blamed Medusa for what happened and turned her into the monster we know her as. I actually went deeper into this in my new U Tube video. It might help you understand why Perseus, the glorified hero, slayed an innocent woman.
Some deep Greek mythology, little.
Three true stories behind popular myths. Part 1. Number 3. The Trojan Horse. The tale of the Trojan Horse is a famous myth from the Trojan War. This story, however, is believed to be based on real military tactics used during ancient times. Some historians suggest that the horse was not an actual wooden horse, but rather a battering ram or a siege tower. These were common tools used in warfare to infiltrate and break down the defenses of cities, such as Troy. The tale of the Trojan horse has been passed down through generations and continues to be a symbol of deception and strategic warfare. Number 2. King Arthur. The legendary King Arthur, known for his Knights of the Round Table and his noble deeds, is believed to be based on a real historical figure. There are various theories about who this figure might have been. Some suggest he was a Roman military leader who demonstrated exceptional bravery and leadership. Others propose that he was a Celtic warrior who valiantly defended Britain against the onslaught of Saxon invaders. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of King Arthur continues to captivate audiences worldwide. Number 1. The Fountain of Youth. The myth of a magical spring that restores youth and vitality is widespread across cultures. It's thought to be inspired by real-life rejuvenating practices, such as bathing in hot springs. These natural phenomena were believed to have healing properties, providing relief from various ailments and potentially slowing the aging process. The allure of eternal youth has always been a powerful motif in human mythology and storytelling, and the Fountain of Youth is one of its most enduring symbols.
True that. And how many stories I've heard about the
So some
Fountain of
global scientists came together and wrote out what they think are going to be the most threatening issues of 2023. Let's go through it. Number 10 is water. Some people aren't going to have enough, and other people are going to have way too much. It's going to put some stress on agriculture and probably displace a lot of people from their homes. Number 9 is TikTok. Millennials and Gen Z are far more progressive than any other generation we've seen before. With the power of the internet and using that for activism, there's been a big scare in people of power. Enough so that they're still trying to ban the app. Number 8 is America. We're so divided, but it's ranked so low because experts aren't really too panicked about it. The majority of Americans are somewhere in the middle rather than on the really loud extremes. And all those insurrectionist politicians got voted out, so no constitutional crisis here. Yet. At number 7, we got stunted global development. The last 50 years have seen a lot of growth in terms of education, healthcare, and safety, but the middle class is shrinking just as fast as it appeared. And experts say in the almost 3 years it's been since the pandemic that we've gone backwards in human development about 5 years. Number 6 is going to be energy. Europe isn't buying Russia's oil anymore, and they're not going to. And this is driving up prices on a global scale. That and gas companies just blatantly overcharging us. Number 5 is Iran. They were full of demonstrations after the morality police murdered Mahsa Amini. And ever since, the women there have been fighting for their liberation. But the government isn't listening to the words of their people and instead just blaming America. And the president directly helping Putin invade Ukraine is just the extra added layer of what the f***. Number 3 is misinformation. Now, it's not the intention of social media or these AI tools to make people believe in conspiracy theories, but it is the unintended consequence of the business model. And because of this, the whole democracy thing is being questioned not just in the United States, but around the whole world. Number 2 is the fact that Xi Jinping has gotten rid of term limits and made it to where he is the leader of China for life. He has surrounded himself with Communist Party yes-men and even kicked out the previous president. This isn't even how China was ran just 10 years ago, and the chances of this going down a dark path are very high. At number 1, we got Russia going rogue. Putin is completely isolated and shut them off from the rest of the world, while they're completely losing the war that they started. They're seen as war criminals, but they're not going anywhere. Nobody's gonna kick Putin out of office. They have the most nuclear warheads out of anybody in the world. Because of this, NATO is consolidating and tensions are high.
I want to talk about one of the darkest videos on the internet. This is a 70-year-old video of a man suffering from rabies, and it has kind of a crazy backstory. Now, I talk about this video in an episode I just did for the Heart Starts Pounding podcast about how terrifying rabies is, but this was a video put out by the U.S. Army Medical Service in 1955. It features an Iranian man who was bitten by a rabid wolf that attacked his village. All in all, there were 29 men in this village that got rabies from this wolf. So the US Army filmed this training video over the next several days to show people what it was like when someone contracts rabies and doesn't get the vaccine in time. And one of the scariest parts of the video is right here when the man starts showing the scariest symptom of rabies, which is hydrophobia. Hydrophobia is a fear of water that is incredibly common in rabies patients. Basically, thinking about water or even looking at it causes really painful spasms in the person's throat, so it looks like they're afraid of it. And that's actually why some people used to think that rabies was demonic, because priests would throw holy water on patients and they would have these really extreme reactions to it. Eventually, after a few days, the man did succumb to the illness because rabies is almost 100% fatal if not treated with a vaccine pretty much immediately. And if you want to learn more about the history of rabies or how terrifying it is, or even some more illnesses that kind of hijack your brain, check out this episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
He would dress up as a clown for children, but no one knew he had 27 bodies underneath his home. John Wayne Gacy was born on March 17th of 1942 in Chicago. The household that he grew up in was not good at all because his father, who was a World War II veteran, would constantly beat him. At the age of 11, John had a playground accident, and this led him with a blood clot in his brain, and this would trigger blackouts. He seemed to be always socially isolated, and he always wanted approval from his father. By 1966, John turned his life around. He got married, had 2 stepchildren, and even owned a KFC franchise. To everyone around John, he seemed to be charming, always ready to lend a hand, but this was all a front. That same year, John had lured a teenage boy to his home and SA'd him. When that teenage boy tried to report the crime, John hired another teenager to go and beat him up. Despite those efforts, the case moved forward and John pled guilty and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Out of those 10 years, he only served 18 months. While in prison, John became the head cook and he charmed the prison staff and they gave him early parole. His wife ended up divorcing him, his father passed away, and he wasn't allowed to go to his funeral. In 1970, he returned to Chicago with a clean slate, but he had some sinister plans. In 1972, John remarried and moved into a small home in Norwood Park. He launched a contracting business called PDM Contractors and focused on hiring teen boys. Most of these teenage boys came from broken homes, were runaways, all were vulnerable. From the outside looking in, John seemed like a great neighbor. He would always host barbecues. He would even dress up as a clown and go to children's hospitals to cheer up children, but no one knew that he was making a torture chamber. On December 11th of 1978, 15-year-old Robert Pierce vanished after his shift at a pharmacy. He told his mom he was going to speak with a contractor about a job, but he never returned home. Detectives were called and police showed up at John's home. John denied ever meeting Robert, but once they did a background check on him, it showed his previous conviction. Once they got a search warrant to search his home, they found IDs from missing boys, they found a book called Pretty Boys Must Die, handcuffs, clothing, and a high school class ring from one of the missing boys. There was a crawl space in the home and it reeked, but John claimed it was just the sewage. Once they checked the crawl space, they found human remains. Police recovered 27 bodies underneath his home, 1 was in the yard, and 5 more were in a nearby river. John would lure victims with promises of alcohol, work, or clown tricks. John would use chloroform to knock them out, he would torture them, SA them, and strangle them. He would bury them underneath his floorboards, put on a smile, dress up as a clown, and go to children's hospitals. On February 6 of 1980, John's trial began and his defense claimed insanity. Finally, on March 13th, after 2 hours of deliberation, he was found guilty and sentenced to death.
John Wayne Gacy, that crazy is more crazy.
Let me tell you some things that you probably didn't know. A man named Joel Berger married a woman named Ashley King, and Burger King paid for the wedding. A 3-year-old boy playing with his dad's metal detector found a 16th century gold pendant that was worth $4 million. In Norway, every citizen's tax record is public, so you can just literally check how much money your neighbor makes. Norway is also the first and only country to ban deforestation. There was a baby born at 7:11 p.m. on July 11th, weighing 7 pounds 11 ounces, that received $7,111 for college from 7-Eleven. Single women own more homes in the United States than single men. A woman had her 20 boyfriends buy her 20 iPhones, then sold them to make a down payment on a house. That's how so many single women are buying the houses. The webcam was literally invented by 3 people who wanted to remotely check their coffee's pot level without having to walk to their break room.
That's crazy, especially about the fact that she got men to buy her a house, man. 20 guys, bro, bought an iPhone. She finessed all of them. That's sad.
She took the life of her coworker over some Lululemon leggings. On March 12th of 2011, just before 8 a.m., Rachel walked to a Lululemon store in Maryland where she was the manager at. Once she got to the front door, she noticed it was already unlocked. Once Rachel went inside, she noticed that the clothing racks were scattered all over the floor, mannequins were in pieces on the floor, and she could hear a faint moan in the back of the store. Rachel was terrified. She turned around, ran outside, and called 911. Right next door to that Lululemon was an Apple store, and a guy named Ryan worked there as a security guard, and he saw how frantic Rachel was, and he told her that he would go inside to see what was going on. Once Ryan went inside, he followed a trail of blood to the back room, and that's when he found the store supervisor, Jana, unalived. As Ryan turned around to leave, he saw another employee, Brittany Norwood, and she was lying in the employee bathroom. Her hands were zip-tied, her shirt was pulled up, and there was a Lululemon t-shirt around her neck. Although Jana did not survive this attack, Brittany was okay. Once police arrived, Jana was pronounced dead at the scene, and she suffered from 331 wounds from 5 different weapons, including a wrench and a hammer. 200 of those wounds were on her face and her neck, and 100 of them were defense wounds. Jana was alive for the entire attack until a fatal stab wound hit her spinal cord. As for Brittany, she had a gash on her forehead. She received stitches for it and was released from the hospital that same day. Everyone just assumed that this was a robbery gone wrong, but this was far from the truth. On the night of the attacks, Jana and Brittany were working the closing shift together, and around 9:30 p.m. they closed up and left. Once they left, Brittany had realized she left something back inside of the store, and since Jana was the only one with the keys, she asked her to come back to open the door for her. Jana unlocked the door and disabled the alarm. As Jana and Brittany were looking around the store, 2 masked men came in, and they were all wearing black. Allegedly, these guys beat Jana to death, essayed both of the girls, and let Brittany live because she was more fun to do it with. Apparently, this was Brittany's story to police, but police weren't really buying it. When Brittany told police that there was 2 masked men that came in, they started to investigate the place and only saw 2 footprints, which would be Brittany's shoes and a men's size 14 shoes. There was no evidence of SA from either woman, and on Brittany, it wasn't her own blood, it was Jana's. Brittany was caught in a lie, and eventually the truth came out. On the night of the attacks, Jana saw Brittany stuff a pair of Lululemon leggings in her purse and confronted her about it. Once they locked up the store, Jana got in her car, called her manager Rachel to tell her what she had saw Brittany do. A few minutes later, Jana received a call from Brittany telling her she had left something in the store, and that's when Jana turned around to go open the store for her. While Brittany pretended to search for her item, she attacked Jana from behind. She stabbed, beat, and choked Jana for 17 minutes. That night, employees at the Apple store nearby could hear screaming, and they just figured it was nothing. They thought it was just drama going on at the Lululemon store. Once Brittany took Jana's life, she went into her car and moved it. Meanwhile, she was thinking of a plan to stage the scene. She grabbed Jana's blood and put it all over her face, and she cut a hole in the crotch of her leggings. Finally, she grabbed a men's size 14 shoe and walked around the back room to leave footprints to hopefully throw off police. Once Brittany was all done, she zip-tied herself and laid down on the bathroom floor, waiting to be discovered 10 hours later. Brittany ended up being arrested about a week later, and she admitted to everything that she had just lost it at the heat of the moment. Brittany was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Worked at Harvard, stole people's heads, brains, and skin from cadavers and sold them in the black market. 57-year-old Cedric Lodge was a Harvard Medical School morgue manager and just pleaded guilty to stealing and selling body parts from cadavers. He worked at Harvard for 30 years and ran a program where people donate their body parts for science, and it wasn't until recently that they found out he was stealing body parts. From 2018 to 2020, he secretly removed organs, brains, skin, hands, faces, and dissected heads after the bodies were used for research. Instead of disposing of the bodies, he took them home to New Hampshire. His wife was also in on this, and they sold the remains to buyers in different states. And they made good money doing this, apparently tens of thousands of dollars. Cedric pleaded guilty this week and faces up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Harvard did fire him in 2023 and called his actions a morally clearly a reprehensible betrayal. The school also insists that he did act alone and that no other Harvard employee was involved. But get this, some human remains were also found being sold on Facebook Marketplace.
Life hacks.
Do you guys believe the corruption just stopped there, or there could possibly be more to that story, Seekers? I don't know, that sounds like a freaking deep rabbit hole we might have to go down. His wife is in on it too, so who's to say some other people weren't in on it? You never know.
That everyone needs to know part 2. To remove a tight ring that's stuck on your finger, all you have to do is grab a string and tuck it under the ring. And then grab that same string and wrap it around your finger, and from there all you have to do is grab the other side and start pulling. The ring will magically remove itself. All you have to do to remove tape paper without ripping it is to hold the tape from both ends and start pulling really hard, which will then cause the tape to get removed super easily. If your house key broke in the lock for some reason, just get yourself a hot glue stick and place it inside the lock just like this, and just wait for it to dry a little bit and pull it really hard, and there you have it, your key is out.
Wow.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. The Voynich manuscript is an ancient book full of symbols and drawings that no one can translate till this day. Dracula was based on a real person. Vlad Dracula, a Romanian ruler that very much enjoyed watching people bleed to death. In 1963, the Bronx Zoo had an exhibition called The Most Dangerous Animal in the World. It was a mirror. 2 fishermen used their dead friend's ashes as fishing bait, and they caught the world's biggest carp. These are how Halloween costumes looked like in the 30s. If Earth stopped spinning for 1 second, everything and everyone will die instantly. A new homeowner found an old doll boarded up in his wall holding a note saying she killed a family in this house. This house is named the John Lawson House, and nobody knows who lives here. Every day, this porch is occupied by a number of female mannequins. The number of mannequins, the positions they're in, and the clothes they wear are changed every day, and no one knows who is doing this and why. Like for part 18.
Stay away from that house, man. John Lawson's house, noted.
Scary facts that will make your skin crawl. BT point 6. Phobias are based on how we died in our past life. Maybe that's why we're afraid to do things we never tried, because it's how we died. Experts said that dark areas, such as abandoned houses and vacant rooms, are the possible places where you can feel the presence of ghosts. So if you're alone right now while reading this post, there is a chance that someone is watching you. If you're awake at night without a reason, then it means that you are awake in someone else's dreams.
Really? Interesting. Something standing out.
Scary fun facts until the Orbeez overflow. There are microscopic mites that live in your eyelashes. Being buried alive happens so often on accident that they've now invented safety coffins. In the 1800s, dentures were made with real teeth from the deceased. Radio station UVB-76 has been broadcasting since 1982. All it does is make creepy noises and nobody knows where it's broadcasting from. Chainsaws were originally invented for childbirth. The final part of Mount Everest that you have to climb is known as Rainbow Valley. They call it that because all you see is all the different colored jackets from the frozen hikers. And it looks like I'm out of time. Follow for more fun facts.
Wow, okay.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. You are the oldest that you have ever been and the youngest that you will ever be. Your bed absorbs 26 gallons of your sweat every year. There are 15 dead people for every 1 person alive. Science can't measure exactly how strong a gorilla is, so there's no sure way on how to contain them. The gorilla enclosures at zoos are just based on trust. Every 18 minutes, someone in the United States has a brain aneurysm that ruptures. Vampire moths are real and can feed on the blood of humans. A jar of peanut butter contains 10 or more rodent hairs and can contain up to hundreds of insect fragments. Big Bird almost joined NASA's Challenger mission to help kids become more interested in space. Millions of kids would have watched Big Bird and the Challenger space shuttle explode on live television. Follow for more.
Scary facts that will give you nightmares, part 5. First up, did you know that pigs can eat literally anything, including humans? One thing a lot of people don't know about pigs is that there have been many records of farmers dying because their pigs ate them. This is usually because while tending to the pigs, the farmers will run into an accident like falling or something, and then the pigs will feast on their body. Next up, have you ever heard of fatal familial insomnia? Well, it's a rare genetic disease that can be inherited and makes it impossible for someone to sleep for months. Since this type of insomnia can last for so long, it can leave someone so exhausted that they develop high blood pressure, weight loss, severe exhaustion, and then death. And lastly, did you know that trees can grow inside of your lungs? In Russia, doctors were performing surgery on a man because they thought he had lung cancer, but instead of a tumor, they found a 5-centimeter tree branch in his lungs. They later found out that he swallowed a fir bud, which then grew into a tree branch.
We made dire bees almost 70 years ago, and we have not stopped paying for it. In the 1950s, folks flew in African honeybees to Brazil because they figured they could breed them with European honeybees in the hopes of making a hybrid better bee, one that was more productive than Euro bees and less on-site than Afro bees, because Afro bees are Black Air Force tier of trouble. Brazilian beekeepers used excluder screens to keep the African queens from getting out. Problem is, they did not tell the new guys. Someone saw the screen screening, and was like, oh, we can't have that, and removed the screen, sending 26 African queens and swarms of Euro bees into Brazil, which quickly led to Africanized honeybees, or more known as killer bees. You see, generational trauma then made these African bees that much more trigger happy. Normally, a European queen bee will usually send out 20 to 30 attack bees at once. African honey queens unload half the whole clip, sending thousands, sometimes 30,000 attack bees at once. Not only that, but they chase people further than Euro bees and sting 10 times as much, with cases of people being tailgated by an angry swarm for a quarter of a mile. There's even stories of swarms waiting directly above a body of water so that the moment the runner comes up for air, all he gets is smoke. Over 1,000 people have been turned past tents by an air force of spite flies. And after being released in Brazil in '57, they hit America in the '90s like Will Smith and left their mark like the Fresh Prince left on Chris. And to add insult, they also somehow nerfed the honey industry, so nature really slapped us for cutting corners. And today, Africanized honeybees are like a rash infecting the US Southwest. Moral of the story, be better or be turned into letters, 3 in particular, the more you know.
The strangest places in the world, part 1. Firstly, on top of a hill in Pennsylvania, some stones can be found that shouldn't actually be there, because there's no nearby high terrain where they could have originated. These are called the ringing rocks, because whenever something hits these stones, they make a strange ringing noise.
Weird.
Next is the petrifying well in England, where water flows from a rock and turns whatever it touches into stone. As you can see, people often leave items like hats, teddy bears, or even bicycles, which appear to have already been turned into stone. Some people believe there's a mystical power, but the scientific reason behind this is the unusually high mineral content in the water, which forms a hard mineral shell on any object it comes into contact with. And within a few months, everything essentially becomes a stone statue.
Stone water.
The parents of 20-year-old Sudishka Kunaki believe that their daughter drowned in the ocean in the Dominican Republic and are pushing authorities to declare her deceased. Sudishka's parents also said that they don't believe Joshua Wright, who was the last person seen with their daughter before she went missing, to be involved in her death. Joshua also testified that Sudishka's parents hugged and thanked him for trying to save their daughter's life. Now, authorities were really surprised that Sudishka's parents asked to declare their daughter deceased after only 12 days of her going missing, when usually investigations go on for months before they stop looking for someone. But I don't know, in this case, it seems like their parents are genuinely convinced that Joshua didn't do anything to hurt their daughter, and I guess after seeing all the surveillance footage of both of them together before she went missing, the only other possibility is that she drowned in the ocean. This is the last time Sudishka and Joshua were seen together at the resort, and a lot of people have speculated that perhaps Sudishka was abducted on the beach after Joshua fell asleep, because remember, they were both really intoxicated. But I don't know, that seems very unlikely, especially at a resort in the Dominican Republic where, for the most part, it's pretty safe.
Animal group names that should be illegal for how happy they make me for free. A group of ferrets is called a business, which means I can finally show this picture without being out of context. And if that sounds too professional, just remember this first Slinky's Latin name means stinky weasel thief. A group of vultures is called a wake, but only when they're eating. When they're flying, they're called a kettle. A group of porcupines is a prickle. A prickle of porcupines, which also describes how they mate. A plurality of platypus is a paddle. Several sloths are a snuggle. A group of baboons in one place is a congress.
No comment. A group of crows is scientifically referred to as a murder. Did you know crows will investigate the cause of death when a member of their murder croaks? Will also seemingly mourn the dead and grieve the loss of their... Oh, never mind. A group of ravens is an unkindness, and for the record, if you want to know the difference, if you're wondering if it's a crow or raven, it's a crow. And if you're wondering what in the Edgar Allan Nevermore looking... It's probably a raven. Unkindness comes from the idea that ravens are deadbeat parents that often evict their chicks before they're even ready. They're also called a conspiracy. You know what else is a conspiracy? A lot of lemurs. This entire scene is a conspiracy, and the biggest one is that ring-tailed lemurs are female-dominated, so King Julian is actually a queen and a Julia. A group of parrots is a pandemonium, and once upon a time, a parrot was kicked out of a former president's funeral because he kept swearing through the service, so yeah, pandemonium. And lastly, a group of alpacas is a herd, but an alpaca giving birth is called an unpacking. Send it back.
Another cold case has been solved thanks to DNA. On December 23, 1983, 24-year-old Ronald Lee Novak was found dead in his home in rural Walker, Iowa. He was found by a friend with his hands tied behind his back in an unheated room in his apartment in the dead of winter in Iowa. He had been beaten and shot, but it was determined that his cause of death was a combination of his injuries, shock, and hypothermia. Investigators believed he was killed in a robbery or burglary gone wrong, but they had no suspects, and unfortunately, his case went cold. But over the last decade, DNA from Ronald's case was being tested, including DNA from his clothing and from a hammer found in his home believed to be used in the attack. Genetic genealogy allowed investigators to narrow the DNA down to 3 brothers, and then further DNA testing revealed that it was likely that 64-year-old Michael Schappert, who now lives in Fairview, Oregon, was the likely killer. The investigation revealed that Schappert, quote, likely went to Novak's home with the intent to rob him of money and marijuana. And now, more than 40 years after Ronald Novak's murder, he has been arrested. Schappert was arrested in Oregon and is being held there pending extradition to Iowa, and he is facing first-degree murder charges. The case is not completely closed, though, because it is believed that at least one more suspect was involved in Ronald's murder. Lynn County Sheriff Brian Gardner said, quote, by naming a suspect, it may cause other people to now come forward that maybe weren't willing to do so previously. Or maybe this has jogged their memory some 41 years later. Ronald's sister said after the arrest that the investigation has been a long ride for the family, and she didn't know if she would ever see this day come. She said, quote, you start to give up hope that there will be an answer. I wanted it so bad. We look forward to the trial. At least now Ronald's family has answers, and hopefully he will soon be getting the justice he deserves. Rest in peace, Ronald.
These are some...
Rest in peace. Justice will come to you sooner or later.
If you could rack your brain right now to ask yourself what is the most disturbing Disney Channel original movie, which one would you pick? If you chose Don't Look Under the Bed, you're correct, because the movie actually almost never even made it to television. Any of the sequences that did eventually make the cut were considered so disturbing, this is actually one of the only Disney Channel original movies that has a TV PG rating. Anne Sweeney, who was the president of Disney Channel at the time, as well as countless other executives, had a lot of issues with this film. And even to this day, there are still some sequences, some scenes that have never seen the light of day. They were not going to be included in the movie. And I think in part, the credit should go to the director, who was really trying to creatively push the boundaries of what could be included in children's horror. Even just beyond the disturbing imagery, they explored some pretty dark themes in a children's movie, starting to play with psychological horror when Frances can see things that everybody else thinks she's crazy for. In 2006, Disney Channel had to pull it from the October catalog. It will not be on Disney Channel again.
YouTubers who became murderers, part 1. This was the YouTuber Elliot Rogers' last video.
Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity, against all of you.
This was called the Day of Retribution. The son of a Hollywood filmmaker killed 6 people. Roger left the car and saw students across the street. He shot at them, taking the life of Veronica Weiss and Catherine Cooper. The suspect proceeded on foot and fired several rounds into the deli. One of the bullets struck and took the life of a student named Christopher Martinez. Then he drove down the left side of the road so he could fire at 2 pedestrians. Police then came running across the park, and Roger fired at them as he drove. But he was struck in the left hip. After he hit a cyclist, he crashed his car into the back of an SUV.
This guy in Brazil would dress up as Batman with a red hood. He even had his own homemade weapons like the batarang and everything. He would break into suspected criminals' homes and just beat them senseless. This is as close to lore-accurate Batman as we might get. His name is Rodrigo Rodrigues da Silva. He was also known as the Punisher of Paranaíba in Brazil. He was arrested back in 2023. When he broke in, he had like bladed gauntlets, like the batarang, a utility belt full of different weapons and stuff. He He also told police he had intentions to use all of his weapons on the person's home that he broke into. In Brazil, homicides are very, very prevalent in the country. He got kind of sick of all these criminals getting away with it, so he decided to take justice into his own hands. I forgot one more thing. He also had a submachine gun on him. It's not pictured here, but crazy. And mind you, these are suspected criminals, so maybe some of these aren't confirmed criminals, but it's just crazy to think about, Batman breaking into your home and just beating you senseless at night. And the work that he put in to make his suit and his weapons and everything, crazy stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Her father...
You ever real life Batman, bro, in Brazil? How come that didn't make noise in the news or something, man? This is my first time hearing it, bro. He real life tried to become Batman, bro. He had the weapons, the batarangs, all that. That's freaking crazy to think about, man. We got a real life Batman before GTA 6.
Judith Eva Barsi was born on June 6 of 1978 in Los Angeles, California. Her parents, Joseph and Maria, were originally from Hungary and had met at a restaurant in California. From a very young age, Maria was fascinated with Hollywood and was determined to make her daughter famous. Judith was discovered while she was ice skating one day and was asked to come out in a commercial. From there, it was just the start of her career, and she came out in the movies All Dogs Go to Heaven and Land Before Time. Judith was very small for her age, and she even started taking hormone injections to make herself grow. Her success helped her family thrive, and she was making about $100,000 a year, and her parents used that to buy a 3-bedroom house in Los Angeles. Although Judith's career was thriving, something sinister was going to happen behind the scenes. Judith's father had drinking problems, and he was angry with his daughter's success. He had even gotten arrested 3 times for driving under the influence. Many of Maria's friends told her to leave her husband, but she refused because she was scared that she was going to lose the house, her belongings, and that he would unalive her somehow. On July 27th of 1988, around 8:30 a.m., the family's neighbor was watering her garden when she heard an explosion. That neighbor rushed to call 911 because she was afraid that Joseph had unalived his family. That neighbor was right because Joseph had shot Maria and Judith in the head and then poured gasoline everywhere. Judith and Maria were buried together in Hollywood Hills, California, and Joseph is said to be in an unmarked grave.
This might be the most insane case of police cover-up I've ever seen in my entire life. Arrest has finally been made in the murder of Sandra Birchmore, who all of this started back in 2010 when Sandra was just 12 years old. She enrolls in the county's police youth program where her alleged killer, Officer Matthew Farwell, is an instructor. At some point, Officer Farwell, who's 27 years old, begins grooming Sandra, and by the time she's 15, they're having a full-on intimate relationship, if you know what I mean. When Sandra turns 18, she's obviously aged out of the program, but maintains a relationship with Officer Farwell, who is married with children. In October of 2020, Sandra tells Farwell that she wants a child, and he apparently agrees to get her pregnant in exchange for her silence about the statutory R-word and extramarital affair. 2 months later, Sandra's pregnant, and after Farwell finds out, he becomes physically violent with Sandra. She told multiple friends that Farwell had pushed her, shoved her, and even placed her in a chokehold. In January the following year, someone called the police department and leaked this information. When the employee told Farwell about this phone call, he became visibly angry and told them to keep this information secret. Within days of that phone call, Farwell starts to allegedly plan Sandra's murder. All of a sudden, he wants a spare key to her apartment. 2 days after that, he starts canvassing her apartment, looking for places to carry out the murder. He inspected her bathroom closet, specifically places where items could be hung, and his behavior was strange enough that Sandra told multiple friends that she was concerned. A week later, on February 1st, Farwell enters Sandra's apartment wearing a face mask where police say he strangled her to death. And by the way, while Farwell was allegedly committing this murder, his wife was in the hospital giving birth. Family ended up hiring a private medical examiner who did rule it as a homicide. After years of a federal investigation and her family refusing to stay silent, Matthew Farwell has finally been indicted for her murder.
He is interested in blondes. I'm not blonde, I'm a brunette. So I'd go in the shower, take fingernail clippers, and just cut my hair off. Trying to do everything I can to get his attention again. I would have given anything to that man. I would have bought the sun, the moon, and the stars and gave it to him on a platter. And that hurts me that I loved him that much.
Why does it hurt you?
Because I feel like no one is ever gonna love him as much as I loved him at that time. And it makes me feel better knowing that he's truly sorry for hurting me. But it doesn't change anything. Like, I I married Ryan. I have a marriage now. I'm wearing this wedding ring that belonged to Ryan's mom. Like, I have a commitment to my husband. And I want to keep that.
Talking about her ex.
But what's gonna happen when Ryan and I have an argument? Is that little thought in the back of my head gonna say, Ken is single?
Jeffrey Dahmer targeted this 14-year-old boy. The police found him naked, bleeding from his rectum and everything. And Jeffrey Dahmer convinced the police to return him. He told the police that was his boyfriend. They had an argument. Police returned him to Dahmer, and then he got mutilated that night and killed. His name was Konorak Sympthosophone. And like I said, he was found naked, drugged, and bleeding from his rectum on a street corner, and police returned him to Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, dude, if you're seeing blood on somebody, maybe investigate, ask some more questions. His death was also absolutely horrific. He had a hole drilled into his head, and then Jeffrey Dahmer poured acid inside of it to try to recreate a real-life zombie out of him. He was trying to melt the kid's brains out. I think if the kid acted out and got arrested by police, he would have had a better chance to live. This is just so crazy that you would see the kid in this condition and decide to return him to, like, the person that's claiming to be his boyfriend. Hell, even if it was his boyfriend, right? Just look at the situation he's in, dude. Just investigate more. There's obviously some sort of abuse going on here. But it is sickening how much Jeffrey Dahmer actually got away with. This is just one of his many sick and twisted ways that he killed people. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
People are just finding out about the 500-year-old girl who is coming back to life. Stick with me because you're in for a wild ride, as you can see here. I did a video on this a long time ago, but for some reason it's circulating round again right now, freaking people out online and on social media, so here we go. So this mummy right here is known as La Doncella, or the Children of the Lulacana. These different mummies here are all part of the same family, the Children of the Lulacanu, where this group of mummies were found preserved at the top of the Lulacano volcano. But just wait, because it's crazy. This is the Lulacano volcano, which they were found right at the summit of this. And as you can imagine, it's pretty high up and pretty damn cold. The first crazy part is that look how realistic she looks right now, and she's over 500 years old. But with all of these people being believed to have lived in the 14 and 1500s, and it's also believed they were and sacrificed when they were only around 13 years old, then buried and left at the top of this. Now where it gets even more interesting, of course, the archaeologists found these preserved bodies with all the body features and everything still being there after 500 years. Normally you'd be gone, mate. But this is how you might imagine someone who had passed away about 20-30 years ago at tops. But by far the craziest bit out of all of this, I know you're waiting for it, she's coming back to life. Essentially, what happened is the scientists who were doing the test when they got these preserved mummies obviously wanted to figure out how the hell is this possible. Of course, from being at the altitude and those sort of temperatures, it froze her body and her insides. So they found her organs perfectly intact, healthier than probably some of you, and even frozen blood still in her body and in her veins. So she was basically the first person to get cryogenically frozen. Now, no, she's not necessarily coming back to life, just going to get up and start walking again. All of these mummies are now in a museum. But the point of what people have been saying is she could technically come back to life. I actually saw a few scientists have said that it could potentially be possible, but it's not exactly going to be the easiest thing in the world, so I highly doubt it.
And they said her organs intact. Blood and stuff still circulating. Certainly a chance, but like I said, I don't know. Mummies? This shit getting crazier, bro.
Correct! If someone is trying to make you decide in a hurry, they are probably giving you a bad deal. Walk away. If someone has a panic attack, start breathing regularly and loudly. The person that is panicking will subconsciously start breathing in rhythm with you. When a group of people laugh, they tend to look at the person they like the most. Nervousness and excitement have the same body reaction, so if you're nervous for a speech, trick yourself into thinking you're actually excited. If you think someone is watching you, fake a yawn, then watch them. Get someone to contribute to an idea and they will more likely accept it. If you whisper to someone, it's more likely they will whisper back even if there's no good reason to lower your voice. If you want to make someone feel uncomfortable, look at their forehead while you're talking to them. If you want somebody to open up to you, ask them a question. If the person only partially answers it, remain silent and keep eye contact. This will pressure the person into talking more. If you want to be more persuasive, reduce the use of the words I think and I believe. Okay. Touching someone on their shoulder or on their knee creates a stronger emotional bond with that person. Chew gum if you are still nervous. Our brains assume that if we are eating, then we are not in any immediate danger, lowering our fight or flight response. When you approach a group of people, notice if they turn their feet towards you or away from you. If their feet point away from you, you are probably not welcome. Subtly nodding when people are talking to you indicates that you are genuinely interested in what they are having to say and they're going to like you more. If you take a moment to look at someone's eye color when meeting them, you'll be giving them the perfect amount of eye contact. If there is a mirror behind where you are ordering, you are less likely to be rude because nobody wants to see themselves actually be rude. If you buy the first pitcher at the bar with your friends, you'd be surprised how far you could go by saying, I bought the first one. If someone is making jokes at your expense, act like you can't hear them and ask them to repeat it multiple times. By the time they say it a third or fourth time, nobody's laughing. When someone remembers you, they are most likely going to remember the first memory and the last memory of you. So make sure you always leave a good last impression too. After you have learned how to do something new and have done it yourself, the fastest way to retain that information is to teach somebody else. If you have a song stuck in your head and you can't get it out, try and listen to the whole song all the way through while singing it. Your brain is treating the song like an unfinished task in your subconscious. Plan something for every Wednesday that you can look forward to. You'll start to look forward to it on Monday, and by the time Wednesday comes around, you're already halfway through the week and almost to the weekend. Wow. If you ask someone to do a small favor for you, their subconscious mind is going to register that they like you because they're doing a favor for you. Showing the palms of your hands while talking to someone subconsciously communicates that you have nothing to hide and that you can be trusted. Whenever you're introducing a new idea to someone and you lead with the words, this might not be for you, but, it intrigues their interest and makes it feel like it probably is for them. If you need to remember to do something tomorrow, put something in your room out of place. If you don't want to get out of bed, throw your pillow across the room. The next day, you will see this item out of place and it will jog your memory of what you need to accomplish. If you're procrastinating, just stop telling yourself how much work you have to do. This will overwhelm you. Instead, tell yourself you only have to work for 5-10 minutes, and then you're likely going to continue working past those minutes. People who are lying will normally blink more than normal, hide the palms of their hands, glance up to the right, mess with their hair, or use abnormally long sentences. If you're trying to get over a breakup, do not use fictional scenarios. Imagining your person with someone new is only going to make you more angry and sad about something that's not even real. If you want to create a deeper connection with someone you're interested in, ask them these two questions. What do you think we have in common? And what do you like most about me? If you are suffering from racing thoughts, use the 3-3-3 rule. Name 3 things you see, 3 things you hear, and 3 parts of your body. This will help center your mind and bring you back to the present. When someone apologizes for something that you don't feel like was that big of a deal to apologize for, they're probably telling you subconsciously what actually bothers them if it was done to them. If they apologize for interrupting you, they probably really just don't like being interrupted themselves. Follow for more psychology hacks.
Interesting hacks. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up in this video, comment down below, hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. Follow all my social medias down below, man. Discord is down below as well. Just added that. Guys, gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.